Good Friday morning, everyone. We are what? Let's see, 28 and a half hours away from kickoff. Hey, look at that math early. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure I nailed it. Not bad for me, considering me and math. But hey, I am Travis Gailey. This is Get Your Horns Up, the show where we talk all things Texas. I am joined, of course, by Orange Blood's own Aaron Little and Nash from Texas, who loves talking them horns. Guys, how you doing today?
I mean, you mentioned it, man. I mean, we pretty much have a quarterfinal college football playoff game tonight. That feels like a big deal. That definitely has me excited. It's a West Coast game that starts at 7:00, so I don't have to actually push myself to stay awake. It's gonna be good. Yeah, in a dome, should be points. I'm definitely looking forward to it.
Yeah, like I mentioned yesterday, this feels like a nice little teaser for next year's 12-team college football playoff. It feels like there's wild card rounds for all these conference championship games. This should be a fun one to watch. I've seen enough Oregon fans start because here's the deal. You know what? Like we weren't talking crap about Oregon. We weren't saying they're bad. We're just saying, hey, committee, show a little bit of consistency. But with all the Oregon fans that like to talk a little crap to Texas on the timeline and all that stuff, I am now rooting for Washington to just absolutely go out there and blow the backs out of Oregon.
Well, you know what? We're going to pick that game, and the rest of the college. You guys are right. They're almost basically semifinal action, quarterfinal action. We're going to pick these games coming up a little later. But first, we got some news and notes concerning Texas, including the volleyball team rallied for a 3-1 win over who? Texas A&M beat them Aggies round one of the NCAA tournament last night at the Gregory Gym. This is the Longhorns are now 23-4. They're the second seed in the Stanford Regional, the Palo Alto Regional. They're going to advance to take on SMU in the second round tonight at 7. So about the same time that Washington, Oregon is kicking off. Texas, SMU will be tipping off, not tip off. What do you call it in volleyball? Serving. First serve.
Asking the wrong guy, man.
Yeah. First serve at 7. How about that? So about that same time. So good for the Horns. It wasn't the prettiest win, but they are defending national champs, and they're moving on to round 2, and Aggies are not. So that's a good thing.
I will say I did tune in. I don't really watch volleyball, but I did tune in for the last set just because I wanted to see if the Aggies got really sad when they got eliminated. Like, I just wanted to see if there were tears or just people throwing a fit. I did tune in for that. I couldn't help myself.
Aaron's like the people on the interstate, they got to slow down. Well, let me see what the car wreck looks like.
If there's a 5% chance of a Texas A&M student athlete crying on my TV, I'm changing the channel.
It's Aggie tears are delicious. Just saying. Salty. The other event that happened last night, Texas men's basketball. The Horns taking on Texas State. I mean, this ended how you think it would end. Texas 77, Texas State 58. Max Asmus with a season-high 26 points last night. Did you guys catch any of that game?
I did. Yeah, I was watching it on the side of the Cowboys game. It was kind of a tough shooting night. They didn't shoot great from 3. They didn't shoot great from the field. What stood out to me is Dylan Mitchell and Max Asmus had to play 38 minutes each. I know college basketball, those guys play a lot of minutes. That's not too abnormal, but not exactly what you would expect against Texas State when you're favored by 19.5. It's still early in the year. This team has got some stuff they need to improve upon. I do think Dylan Dessou coming back fully healthy, where I don't know if Dylan Dessou will come back fully healthy, and I don't know if he can stay fully healthy. I hope he can, because I think he'll be a big deal, because this team needs a way to generate easier shots. Even against Texas State, they can sometimes have difficulty generating open shots. I think having Dessou in the middle, Keenan was talking about how he'd be another good pick and roll option. I kind of thought the same thing watching the game. So, still a work in progress, but until they have Dessou out there, hard to fully, evaluate them, especially against this competition.
Yeah, I've tried to remember that there are games on for college basketball. I'm gonna have to just reveal myself. I am a completely casual Texas basketball fan. It is what it is. I tried to, get fully engaged, but while there's football on, and then eventually whenever baseball comes around, I just look. I'm sorry. It is what it is. I'm gonna forget that there's games on. So I completely forgot that there was a game on until after it happened. I was like, okay, you know what? I gave it a shot this year.
How dare you, Nash? Said the guy who didn't tune in at all either. So there you go. I'm right there with you. It is hard, but I do enjoy them when I watch them. It's just,
Oh yeah, I mean they're fun to watch.
There's only so much a man can do before his wife just starts, not being happy that you're watching sports all the time.
Well, see, that's the other thing. I'm definitely watching sports. It's just my life is right now. It's Longhorn football and then Dynasty and fantasy football right now.
Yeah, no, we caught up on Survivor. That's what we did instead of watching sports. I'm just saying.
Good season.
It is a good season. Yeah, it is. It is.
Literally never watched a single episode.
Well,
sports only here.
And I won't give away the spoilers, but I want.
You could give it away.
No. But there are people.
Well, this guy won't care.
There are people watching who would care. People like in the Specs chat line, like Michael Acosta, who was first in the chat line this morning. Michael with his horns up. Good morning to you, buddy. Elite Sports Memorabilia checking in. Good Lord, do I have to post at 12:01 a.m. to be first?
Yes.
No. Actually, you just need to click that notification bell so you can see as soon as the show is open and ready. That's the best way to get in first.
Well, that's technically also 12 a.m.
Is that how it works, Nash? Because I usually create these. Like I create these whenever.
I'm getting these notifications because I'm a night owl, so I'm getting these notifications late at night, and I'm like, okay, you know what? I bet there's one or two people that's hopping in there.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that either. Because I am not up at 12:01. And I got to take that back. I did watch a little sports lesson. I watched some of the Seahawks Cowboys game until I fell asleep.
Really good game.
It was a really good game. And
the first really good game Amazon has to that's literally Amazon's entire check right there.
Well, it's because it wasn't a true Thursday night game. It was because it was two teams that played on Thanksgiving, so it was a full week of rest. So it was a normal football game. That's why it was good.
Yep, I agree. Hey, Benny Rogers in the chat line. Good luck to the Malakoff Tigers, Benny. Jackie McCardell with his horns up. I love it. Pet Rooster. Hip, hip, hooray. It's Mother Effin' Friday. Love the enthusiasm.
Feel like that name should be Pet Raccoon, but just that is a raccoon there.
In the profile picture? It's not like a donkey?
Pet rooster.
It's a raccoon instead of a rooster. Well, he wants to be Rooster. I'll call him Rooster. That's fine. Miguel Angel Diaz. Mi tío. I love the smell of overmatched Okies in the morning. Smells like victory. I'm with you there. And Shy Goth Guy got his horns up. Good morning to everyone in the Spec chat line. Sorry, guys, I can't go through them all because we would just be sitting here, clicking the Spec chat over and over again, which is fine. And by the way, if you have a question, be sure to get it into the Specs chat line. If we have time, we'll answer it, and we may have time this morning. But the only way to guarantee we have time is if you do the super chat. Just saying. And do us a favor real quick. Why not? Let's just get it out of the way right now. Go ahead and hit that like button for us. We appreciate it. It helps us out, helps the show out. The show brought to you by Elite Sports Memorabilia, as we mentioned.
Who they got Dylan Mitchell on the roster, too.
Yes. Exactly. It's not just football gear at Elite Sports. Well, you know what? Let's do it. It's not just football gear at Elite Sports Memorabilia. They do have Dylan Mitchell. They have had baseball players. It is a year-round operation at Elite Sports Memorabilia, but they also have football players, including guys like Xavier Worthy and Adonai Mitchell, who are likely headed to the NFL draft this year. And speaking of, Orange Blood's reporting that wide receiver and defensive line are two of the biggest targets for the Horns in the portal. Just wanted to get that out. Could be new members of the ESM family. We'll see who they get, and we'll see if who Brandon is able to get. And while we're talking about it, Kelvin Banks' signing is this Sunday, the 3rd. That means time is running out. This is it. This is the last weekend to get your pre-orders in for Kelvin Banks. Doing so guarantees that you get it delivered fast and quickly. It can be under the tree, ready to open for whoever unwraps that beautiful gift. It also is the last chance, though, to get the inscription service done. For $25, you can get it inscribed to whoever you want, whatever you want, within taste, obviously. Although Brandon posted in the chat the other day, he's going to have Kelvin sign a couple of mini helmets saying F the Big 12. So there you go. If you want to say F
Great
the
gift
Big
for your
12,
daughter.
yeah. if you want to get little Susie a Kelvin Banks autographed mini helmet saying F the Big 12, you can. But you got to do it this weekend because time is running out. Those pre-orders go the signing Sunday, the December 3rd. After that, you can still buy Kelvin Banks autographed jerseys and mini helmets and full-size helmets, whatever you want. They just won't pictures. They just won't have the inscription available. So jump on that now. I see one person already scanned the QR code. We love it. Everyone else, hey, it's Christmas time. What are you waiting for? Elite Sports Memorabilia, like I said, sponsors this show. We'd appreciate it so much. All right, guys. Hey, I mentioned the War Room Nuggets about targeting wide receiver, linebacker, and defensive line in the portal. It does make the most sense. I mean, obviously, Texas is losing the most talent there, including Tavondre Sweat, an ESM family member, Byron Murphy, an ESM family member. I mentioned Adonai, Xavier Worthy. Jalen Ford is another big loss. So clearly those are good areas to target. The one note that I found the very most interesting in the War Room, which, by the way, if you're not a member of Orange Bloods, you should be, because there's nuggets like this throughout all day, every day. There's just good information coming out. Savion Red and Jaden Blue are two of the biggest targets for the Longhorns to make sure they come back. The Horns are going to be working hard to make sure Savion Red and Jaden Blue don't enter the transfer portal. And both of those guys, I feel like, are going to be needed this Saturday against Oklahoma State. I mean, obviously, no one wants to see those goes, but what was y'all's reaction when you read that?
I mean, I think it's pretty big to retain at least one, if not both of those guys. It sounds like Corey and Gibson probably going to flip to Florida. So that leaves Christian Clark, who a lot of people really like. And then you assume CJ Baxter's going to be back. Baxter's been banged up a ton this year. So I like having depth in the running back room because, obviously Jonathan Brooks was a complete stud. We still don't know exactly what's going to happen with Jonathan Brooks. But it's been nice to have the depth, and that would be nice going forward because, man, college football season, it's a grind. And you can never have too many good running backs, especially in, Sark's offense where he's willing to give the ball to whoever as long as that guy's running the ball well. So, yeah, I mean, just war of attrition. You definitely want to have as many quality running backs around as possible.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say keeping Jaden Blue on that to me is priority number one because that dude, their speed like that just doesn't grow on trees. The ability to catch the football as well, be a hard literally. I think about the only thing that you could have a fair criticism of is his ability to pass block right now. And I think that that's something that you could see just continue to grow through his time at Texas. So this is a running back that I really, really want to keep on at Texas because at the very least, if Jonathan Brooks does come back, having Brooks, Baxter, and Blue, man, that's find me a better trio of running backs in the nation.
Absolutely. And you talked about Blue speed. You posted something, Nash, comparing Blue to Jamal Charles, which I thought was fantastic. And then we see Real Analytics, who is a great follow on Twitter, by the way.
Amazing follow.
Yeah, you guys should check them out. That touchdown run Jaden Blue had against Tech Thanksgiving weekend, they clocked him at 22.3 miles per hour. That is insane speed.
To put that in perspective, the NFL just had their second time all year long that a player has gone over 22 miles an hour. That was DK Metcalf. The other time was Tyreek Hill. This is the second time we had a Texas Longhorn go over 22 miles an hour. We had Xavier Worthy hit 22.7 on the kick return versus Iowa State, I believe. It was one of the games that he had a kick return in, but there's only been 13 times that a player has hit 22 miles an hour or over. And to have two of those on Texas, I mean, it just speed kills. Those dudes it's just like we were talking about yesterday. There's sometimes there's football dudes, there's track dudes, right, who are playing football. They got track speed, but they're not they're not physical. These two dudes are very much guys that have track speed that are football players.
Nash, did you see them get Austin Eckler at 13 miles per hour a couple weeks ago on a breakaway run?
I did not.
13 miles an hour. Free Justin Herbert.
Oh, by the way, Bijan Robinson at 21 or something. He was close to 21.
Yeah, that's more like
it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, listen, both of these guys are going to be needed, not just this season, but next season too. So it's good to hear Texas is going to be proactive in trying to keep Jaden Blue and Savion Red. And like I said, I think we're going to see quite a bit of them Saturday. So.
I just love you can clearly see the pain in Aaron's eyes right now. He's hurt. This conversation is not helping his mental health.
No, it's actually a funny clip. You should look it up if you haven't seen it.
I will. I trust me. I will.
We've got a super chat question in $5 coming in from Jay Lee. Jay, thank you again for the support. We appreciate that. Saying, what numbers would you all consider middle of the road, average quarterback play in D1 football, rating, yards, completion percentage, touchdown, interceptions? I'll kick it off first. Look, if you're looking at purely at the stats, and I've got them pulled up in front of me, middle of the road, like almost basically mean, would be a 130 rating. But to me, that's below. I think you've got to be 140 and above to be considered kind of average. And then let's say 160 and above to be considered good, right? Does that sound about right to you guys?
Yeah, I was gonna throw it to Nash here. Nash is definitely the guy for this one, I feel like.
Well, for perspective, Quinn Ewers, by the way, is 17th in the country at a 159.56 rating right now. Jaden Daniels leads the country with a 208, followed by Bo Nix at 189 and Jalen Milroe at 179. So that's kind of the upper. I think Quinn is about the line where you start saying these guys are good. Everyone, by the way, very interestingly, I'm shocked to see Kyle McCord is 15th with a 161 rating. I've just not been impressed much with him. So color me surprised. Below that, you start getting into the average play. Guys like Drew Aller, guys like Tyler Van Dyke, guys like Haynes King at Georgia Tech, which, he's got a 143 rating, and we've seen what Haynes King did when he was at Texas A&M. Touchdown passing, it's kind of a similar note. You've got to be 20 or above to be average, I think. That's a bit like 19. KJ Jefferson is 50th in the country with 19 touchdown passes. So that feels about right. About 20 would be average for touchdowns. What else was there? Completion percentage and interceptions. All right, let's filter it by that. Completion percentage. Bo Nix leads the country, in case y'all hadn't heard, 78.6 completion percentage. Had y'all heard that? Did you know?
I've heard it.
Yeah, that's interesting. It looks to me like in the 60s, low 60s is about average, 60 to 64, somewhere in there, 65 for completion percentage. That's kind of average. Quinn Ewers comes in at 8th in completion percentage with 69.8. He's 8th in the country there. So that's not bad. And then interceptions, we did touchdowns already. Interceptions, you're going to be 5 or less would be anything good. Around 5, 6, 7 is going to be an average guy.
I think if the way that I like to look at the touchdowns and interceptions, I like to look at that as like a ratio.
As a ratio of touchdowns,
because you're not going to be able to get like a 1-to-1 with the touchdowns and interceptions.
No, I agree with you. I just can't quite.
Yeah. No, it's kind of hard. Like I wouldn't be able to give a good like efficiency rating number, but I do very much agree with what you were saying. Like middle of the road isn't necessarily middle of the road when you're talking about statistics. You kind of almost want to bell curve it a little bit. like because I mean, like you go to quarterbacks that have had 100 attempts this year passing. You can go as low as 600 yards passing, all the way up to 3,600 yards passing. So middle of the road would be a lot, like 1,800 or whatever. I would honestly put middle of the road like 2,000 to 2,400 for a quarterback, and especially in the context of 2023 Division I football. I would go 3-to-1 touchdown interception ratio as long as you're in that area. If you're better than 3-to-1, then okay, you're better than middle of the road. And then a completion percentage, I would say probably about like I'd honestly probably say almost like 65% to almost like 67% is about middle of the road now, which is very interesting because it feels like it honestly, I feel like baseball has helped the quarterback position as far as throwing the football. Like the sports science, the way that baseball has impacted sports science with throwing motions and all that stuff. Like you look at Caleb Longley, he's even impacted Jalen Hurts, and he has like a Marv or whatever. It's like it's a course for throwing and getting your arm rehabilitating and all that stuff. And like he actually has actual stuff that pertains to NFL football. So throwing, there's clearly some, relationship between baseball and football throwing mechanics. That being said, I do think that the sports science has impacted the game where you see a higher completion percentage. Like Colt McCoy back when he threw like 70% completion percentage, I was like, oh my goodness, wow, this is crazy. And then you got Bo Nix out here throwing for 78.6. I mean,
I think it's that, but I also think it's the offenses that get run these days. It's very little, and which actually leads me to the second part of this. Jay Lee saying what prompted this question was looking at DJ Uiagalelei stats from Oregon State. And he posted the stats right after that, which are pretty average. I mean, but the 56% completion percentage, for instance, that's in an offense where it's a run heavy offense, right? So he was under center a lot, dropping back, more downfield passing as opposed to the vertical, the pass to run game that you see from a lot of like West Coast or Baylor style offenses. So I think that dictates a lot of the completion percentage that we, 56% like in the 70s was almost NFL Hall of Fame level. Like, I mean, we're talking what's his name? Terry Bradshaw level completion percentage. Seriously, go look up Terry Bradshaw's stats from when he was with the Steelers. So the offenses have evolved so much, I think, that you see those completion percent, not discounting what you're saying about the sports science, Nash. I think that's a very good point. I'm adding to saying yes, and that I do think it's some of that. So yeah, Jay, I'm DJ Uiagalelei was clearly average, and he's in the transfer portal. He's gonna now that Jonathan Smith has left Oregon State. DJ Uiagalelei is looking for a new home. I'm a little surprised, by the way, he didn't just declare for the draft and give it a shot with whatever he could do in the NFL. I know he hasn't done anything to warrant but he's got the talent that he could catch on as like
a practice squad body. Guy.
Yeah. So, I mean, maybe he thinks he can get more in NIL dollars as staying in college, and maybe he's right.
I'm telling you know what they would tell him? They would go up to him and they'd say, "Hey, we want to try you out tight end. We want to see."
Yeah, I was about to say.
We want to see if you can be the next. We want to see if you can be the next in line of quarterbacks that make the transition to tight end and end up being good.
You know what? Maybe he goes to Nebraska. They can't afford to pay him $1 to $2 million, right? But
I mean, it's just the one thing that he does have going for him when you're talking about the middle of the road quarterback stats, him being a running quarterback. Like he doesn't need to be a Joe Burrow type guy that's going out there and throwing the football, and it's no secret his number one attribute is his ability to break, be a strong runner and pick up yards on the ground.
Yeah, I agree with that. Hey, by the way, this has prompted, I'm looking at the stats going through this question, and thank you again, Jay. I appreciate it. But I'm also, I don't think I realized Quinn Ewers only has 17 touchdowns on the season. I'd like to go back and look at what we predicted coming into the season. I'm pretty sure I was probably up around 30, and he's got like half that. Now I know
it's only four in the last 3 weeks.
Well, I don't think many of us predicted Texas to be 130th out of 133 teams in red zone touchdown percentage. I think that's played into it a little bit.
Well, there's that too. But I'm very surprised he only has 17.
And we did not do a Quinn Ewers touchdown number, but we did do a passing yards. Aaron is absolutely the most realistic here, and he's the one that's going to be the closest. And he was actually overshooting it, 3,200 yards. I did 4,100, and you had 4,000.
Yeah.
Look.
And he's at 2709.
I thought, you got Adonai Mitchell, you got Jatavian Sanders, you got Xavier Worthy. I'll be honest, I didn't think Steve Sarkisian was going to be able to help himself. I thought he was going to, I gotta call these high flying offenses. Like this is it's just too much fun on the offense. It feels like he's grounded a lot of airplanes this year.
I think you're right. He's gone definitely run heavy. Maybe he'll break out of the mold tomorrow. Ben G. Quinn will throw 13 touchdowns tomorrow. Yeah, we'll see.
A lot of style points. A lot of style points.
A lot of style points. And now I'm definitely regretting me saying it'll be a pass happy game tomorrow. I'm just saying. And yes, Luke, convert red zone and he'd have 30. Yeah, that's possible. That's very possible. But you know what? He didn't get a lot of chances in the red zone, right? It was you flash back to, for instance, the Oklahoma game where it was 4 straight runs, and I feel like there was another 1 or 2 times where that happened too.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's all his fault in the red zone. I'm just saying as a whole, the stats have not been there.
So it is surprising to me, but that also kind of leads itself to when you compare, you can kind of understand why. I'm going to open a can of worms here. You can kind of understand why when pundits look at Texas, they don't see the team that, Texas fans see, right? I mean, because a lot of this has to do with quarterback play. They look at Bo Nix and all the stats he's putting up at Oregon. They look at Michael Penix, for that matter, all the stats he puts up at Washington. Jalen Milroe has gone bonkers ever since he got benched. I mean, Quinn is not there. And a lot of it has to do with the play calling that Sark relies on the run so much. And by the way, Mike Gundy said that this week, Sark's going to do what he's going to do. He's not going to change anything. He's going to run the ball. We've just got to stop him. And that's easier said than done. But, it is, I guess I hadn't really stopped. We've watched every damn play, every snap we can watch, right? We've seen multiple times because we do the rewatches afterwards. And I just hadn't really pieced together that Quinn's stats were what they were.
If you go from Rice to Houston, he was he was on pace for 27.5 touchdowns. So he was right at that 30 touchdown pace. Then he gets injured. He misses 2 games, and he comes back, and only one touchdown, 2 touchdowns, 1 touchdown. Like you're saying, the run game script. I don't think this is necessarily something that's Quinn's fault at all. I don't think he's he was doing bad, or I don't think he's been bad. I think it comes down to this is what Steve Sarkisian, like you're saying, Steve Sarkisian's just calling runs, and it's just, hey, let's operate this offense that we got here. Now, I mean, let's also be honest. You go to Iowa State, there's a missed touchdown to Adonai Mitchell. Adonai's wide open. I mean, it's not like Quinn's free of criticism. There's been opportunities to throw some touchdowns, but I mean, going up to that injury, he was definitely on pace to hitting that 30 mark.
Yeah, I'm not slamming Quinn Ewers at all. I've been a probably one of the biggest Quinn Ewers truthers out there. I think he is a damn good quarterback. I think he's improved throughout the year. I think he will do himself well by coming back next year. I've also said that repeatedly. So I'm on board with Quinn. I'm on board with Quinn coming back. I guess I was just surprised by the stats. Hey, listen, I mentioned Oregon. David Pruitt, I know, buddy. I know you disagree with me that Pac-10 doesn't play, Pac-12 doesn't play any good defenses. That's fine. But look, Bo Nix is starting his 60th game Saturday. 60. Nobody's ever in the history of college football started that many games at quarterback. And it shows. He's got the stats he has because he's seeing the field better than just about anybody.
And nobody ever will. Also, let's
nobody ever will because the COVID year won't be around.
And this is actually something that's honestly kind of been a little bit of like it's almost. I know I'll be the first to say we benefited from with T'Vondre Sweat, but this is something that's almost started. It's started to almost become a little bit of a problem in college football the last couple of years. I mean, like this is how many times? Then the answer is none. How many times have you ever seen a quarterback like Bo Nix that has the amount of experience that Bo Nix has in college football?
Is the answer none?
Yeah, the answer has to be none. I mean, but it's just let's be honest. There are legit grown men taking scholarships away from kids that are in high school trying to go make it in.
Well, hold on, real quick. They're not taking scholarships away because the COVID year didn't cap this. They expanded the number of scholarships for people with the COVID.
Okay, well, starting roster spots.
Yeah, well, maybe starting roster spots. Sure.
Well, starting roster spots that goes to development.
Yeah. I can find that.
Guys end up transferring away, and it's just that it's all domino things. But I think that we will start to see a little bit more of a return to what college football used to be. And a little bit more of the parity that you had in college football when you start to get away from this. Because like there's once we get to the dudes that are 2021, those dudes are seniors. The guys that enrolled in 2021, there's no more COVID stuff anymore.
Yeah, that's true. By the way, I don't know how to transition to this, so I'm just going to go. We're going to pick these games. We started this talking about Bo Nix and Oregon. That game is tonight. We're going to pick it coming up next. But first, I got to tell you about Specs, right? You've been in the Specs chat line. You enjoy the Specs chat line. It is an awesome, fun place to be. But you know what? The actual physical Specs buildings are also a fun, awesome, fun place to be because they've got everything you could possibly want, including spirits, fine wine, beer, goodies, treats. In fact, I was on Specs last night on Specs Online and saw they had a whiskey pecan pie, a bourbon pecan pie, which, oh, damn. Well, it's available for you. And if you're on Specs you can go to the store and buy it, have it today, or you can go to the Specs Online, like I mentioned, or the Specs app and have it delivered.
No matter what you're needing, Specs same-day delivery can save the day with our Specs app or online shopping. From world-class wines to hard-to-find spirits and craft beers to gourmet foods, delicious snacks, and spectacular sweets. It's Specs. Cheers to savings.
It's that time of the week, guys. We are making our picks. Aaron, where do we stand in the standings?
It was only 6 games last week, so less than usual. I was 4-2. You guys were 3-3, so pretty tight across the board. We are down the stretch here. I know, Travis, you said we're going to pick a bunch of wonky bowl games, so it's going to come down to pure luck, I think. But I'm 2 games back in Nash. Travis, you're 3 games back in me. I had a chance here to make a comeback this week, and then Nash waited for me to put in my picks, and then he changed all of his picks to match mine, so that way I could make a comeback.
Nope.
So we'll see what happens this week.
No. Okay.
Well, we're going to have all those wonky bowl games for you to make it, and for me to try and get above 500.
Well, I do want to ask. I'm allowed to do the under, right?
I thought we had to pick the spread.
Yeah.
See that's why I changed. That's why I started to change. Okay.
But if you're picking, for instance, and I don't know if you are, but the first game is Washington versus Oregon. If you picked Washington with the points, It's not the over under, but it's
No, I was talking about the Michigan game. I was going just straight.
No, well, I mean, we can add the over under to that if we want, but we still need to
that's just I was kind of going along with Aaron's snarkiness because that's why I started to change things.
I just thought it was a little weird. That's all. It's fine.
Look, man, own it. That's all he's saying. It's all right. You got the lead. You earned it. Own it. Play defense. Play the prevent D. That's fine.
No, the prevent D doesn't work. We're not doing that. We're offensive out here.
By the way, I'm sorry. I had to get to this J League question too. Who would win in a street fight, Sark or Gundy? I'm telling you right now, Gundy would fight dirty. Gundy would do whatever the hell Gundy needed to do to win a street fight, and Sark would have no chance.
No,
I love
Gundy,
Sark.
Man. He's a man. He is a man. He said it himself. He would win.
Slightly older than 40 now. Slightly older.
He would throw sand in Sark's eyes. He would grab a pipe and just start wailing on it. They're like, I love Sark, but he's too California to chill to win.
Well, that being said, Sark, I believe, has shown he is petty, similar to CDC. So I like our chances of running up some scores. Because I feel like he's got a point to prove with this whole Coach of the Year thing.
North End Zone King saying Sark has a switch. He'd rather just beat you with his brain than pistol whip you with like Gundy. Yeah, Sark does, by the way. I say he's California shield, but I always flash back to the Alabama.
Yeah, that guy touched his nipple in the tunnel. Yeah.
But I also worried as soon as I saw that, I worried because I was like, oh, Sark's too amped up for this game. And you know what I mean? It was his old school. He used to coach at Washington. He was too.
I disagree. We went out. Because here's the only reason why I'll disagree with that is because we went out there and we absolutely shut Michael Penix down in the first half.
The offense.
He was sub 50% in the first. He was sub 50% passing the first half. I mean, we actually went out there and we had a good first half.
I'm anti coaches showing emotion pregame. When they cut to Nick Sirianni before the Super Bowl bawling, my money on the Eagles was burnt. I was very upset. You got to keep it together if you're the coach, at least before the game.
I'm with Aaron. You can't tell your guys to stay cool if you're beating up on the poor guy who's trying to keep you back from, for the TV.
Oh, I from looking at Steve Sarkisian in the tunnel, he's slapping helmets. He's not telling people to stay cool.
Yeah, I'm just saying. Oregon, thank you, Aaron. Let's get on track. Oregon versus Washington. This number, Oregon, 10-point favorites. The total 65 and a 0.5. You know what, Nash? Let's start with you. Who you got? Oregon versus Washington.
I know I want to see Washington beat the ever-loving crap out of Oregon, but I believe Oregon is going to beat the ever-loving crap out of Washington, so I'm going with Oregon.
Yeah, we talked about it last time. They played earlier in the year. Washington squeaked out a win. Oregon failed on a couple important fourth downs. It was one of those rare games where you come out of it saying like the team that lost was kind of clearly the better team. Now they're on a neutral field. Ever since that game, Oregon has looked a lot better than Washington has. The stats have bared it out. Oregon ran the ball really well in the first game. I definitely remember that. I think they're going to run the ball well again here. Bo Nix has gotten a lot better. Penix has come back to earth just a little bit. He's still obviously really, really good, but I think Oregon is going to cover this pretty easily. I think Oregon's going to win by like 24 points. I don't think it's going to be close.
This number is so damn big. Like, and it was such a tight game the first time. I agree with everything you guys are saying about Oregon has looked better. Washington has not since that game. I mentioned earlier in the week, though, Washington has struggled with injuries, and they're getting a lot of those guys back. I want so badly to take the points. But at the end of the day, I just think Washington is that much better of a team. This, unlike the first game, this is not in Seattle. Oregon is that much better of a team. Unlike the first game, this is not in Seattle. This is a neutral field. And heck, if anything, you may even see more Ducks fans there because they have got a pretty strong following in Southern California. And I know the game's in Vegas, but it's easier to get to Vegas from Southern California than it is Seattle or Portland. I'm going to take Oregon. almost against my better judgment. I had been leaning Washington with the points all week, and I'm flipping over to Oregon. So
I mean, to help you out with your judgment, in case you're ever feeling down on it, Washington and Oregon, ever since they played that week, Oregon and all they've done out is they've gone out and just dominated opponents, just absolutely wrecked shop. All Washington's done since that week is just absolutely look terrible and found a way to, like Aaron talked about the other day, literally, like Michael Penix was trying his best to say, here you are. Here's your Thanksgiving present. I'm trying to throw interceptions to y'all so that we can lose the game to Washington State. And they refused to catch the ball. I mean, this Washington team has if you think Texas has tried to give away games, go watch Washington. And it's just it's crazy how much how different they've been ever since that game started. So yeah, it's just it's a tell two teams.
And like the margin of victory that Oregon has won by every game since then, I get it. I do. And I've hyped up Oregon. I think they're one of the best teams in college football, period. I do.
If not the best.
If not the best. I think I'd still have Georgia 1, but I think I'd have Oregon 2.
I was listening to, I think it was the Ryan Russillo podcast yesterday, and they talked about this game, and they said, if you look at the common opponents, I know people are, I say common opponents in Oregon, people are going to get this, but the common opponents that Oregon and Washington have had within the Pac-12, Oregon's average margin of victory against those teams is like 29, I believe, and Washington's is like 8. So
6. Yeah.
It's been pretty big. It's been a pretty big deal.
It is a big, big factor. So yeah, I'm going Oregon because I think they're the better team. I just think it could be a closer game than people are expecting. That's all.
And we should emphasize again, no playoff implications here for Texas. Like the winner of this game is in, the loser is out. Like
I think we all agree with that. Yeah, I think now, is it guaranteed? No, but I think we all agree whoever wins the Pac-12 is in, despite all the consternation about it. Listen, guys, I know you hate hearing Oregon ahead of Texas. I know it. I know. I hear it. God, do I hear it. But they are ahead of them, and if Oregon wins against Washington, they will remain ahead of them because they're playing Washington and Texas is playing Oklahoma State. It's no fault of Texas's own, but
I think the only way you see Texas in the playoff and not Oregon would be if Alabama somehow goes out there and thumps Georgia and the committee decides, you know what, we're going to put in Alabama, and because we're putting in Alabama, we have to put in Texas because they won the head-to-head, and then we're deciding to put in Georgia over Oregon as the 4th spot. That's the only way I could see CFP with Texas and not Oregon.
It's conceivable. It's not. It is.
It's not likely, but it's a possible situation out there that exists.
Yeah. I agree. All right. We're all on Oregon. We all think they're making the playoffs. The next biggest game, of course, Georgia versus Alabama. Georgia 5.5-point favorites. A game being played in Atlanta. By the way, it's not, it's not a quote unquote home game, but it's being played in Atlanta. Over under 54.5. Let's start with you this time, Aaron. Who you got?
This is a tough one, man, because I really like the way Alabama's been playing lately. I love the way Georgia's been playing lately, obviously. We know Alabama, they've been giving up a lot of sacks this year. Georgia can obviously get after the quarterback, nasty defense. 5.5 points. I think both teams are obviously going to play really well here. Like, they're both going to be completely fired up for this game. The playoff stakes are a little more ambiguous here in this one. Ambiguous? I don't know. I blew that one.
You nailed it.
It's a little close. Like, the playoff stakes are tougher here, but both teams are going to be completely fired up. I think we see both teams play really well. I'll take Bama plus the 5.5. I think the offense is able to put up enough points against Georgia. I do think Milroe's been a lot better lately. Georgia has, I don't know, they've been dominant. So like they didn't completely demolish Georgia Tech last week, but Alabama didn't look great against Auburn. That was rivalry week. It was kind of weird. I'll take Bama plus the points, but this one's tough, man.
All right. I'm going to go the opposite of you, actually, and I don't think this is tough. I think the separation between Georgia and Bama is a lot more than people think. Look, Bama, I picked Auburn last week against Bama, not just because it was a rivalry game, but because Bama plays down to opponents. Like, you go back and you look, I know they've won a lot of games since the Texas loss, but like, it wasn't that long ago they let Arkansas almost come back and beat them. They're not the juggernaut that people are making them out to be. The problems that we exposed in the early part of the season, weak offensive line, a receiving core that's not that great, that those still exist. I just have not been, the teams they play, frankly. Listen, people slam the Pac-12. The SEC this year kind of sucks. I mean, they're propping up Ole Miss like it's some big win. Ole Miss isn't very good. They're propping up, Tennessee like it was a big win. Tennessee's not good. Like, who are they beating? So I don't think Bama is all that as strong as people are making them out to be. I think Georgia wins it and wins it big.
So I mean, on the flip side, playing down to your opponent is playing up to your opponent, and that's not to say that that's exactly what they're doing. But typically, teams that play down to their opponents they'll also get up for big games in most cases. At least that's what we've seen at Texas. This is going to be the hardest defense that Georgia's had to face all year long. I think, and it's evidenced by the point spread. It's gone. It started out pretty low, then it bounced up high. Now it's kind of rebounding back down a little bit. It's to 5.5 right now. I think this is going to be a close game, but I think Georgia walks away with the win, and I think they're going to do just enough to cover. But I'm pretty close on this one.
I am taking. I don't think I said this. I am taking Georgia to win a close one. I'm just taking Bama plus the points.
Yeah.
I hear you. Yeah, I got you. I am the only one saying I think it's going to be a blowout. So, but we all have. Well, you got Bama plus point, Nash, and I have Georgia. Let's move on to the barn burner of a game in the Midwest. Exciting Big Ten football. Who doesn't love watching Michigan versus Iowa? Oh, God, that's going to be a brutal game. Michigan are 22-point favorites. The total 35.5. And it's only that high because of Michigan. Nash, kick us off.
I did say I wanted to do the under earlier, but unfortunately we're not doing that. So I'm going to be picking against the spread. I will take Michigan because Michigan it's Michigan if they find a way to get 22 points, and I think they find a way to cover. And this is just such a horrible game to watch if you're going to be watching football. Like we talked about how this is going to be very exciting and this is going to be like a kickoff to next year. This honestly might be a kickoff to next year because every now and then we're going to get one of these games that's going to be an absolute stinker. It's completely overmatched. You're going to have some team that they lost a game or two that they shouldn't have, almost like an Oregon or whatever. And they find themselves, I'm not Oregon right now with where they're ranked, but an Oregon level team that loses a game and maybe they find themselves down in the 10 to 12 range in the rankings. If you're one of those, if you're that group of 5 team that sneaks into the playoff and you end up facing a team like that, that's just going to suck. And then you're going to end up with a game that's very similar to like this one, Michigan versus Iowa. So not a fun game to watch, but Michigan is going to roll them.
Look, I'm really big on don't tell fans how to be fans, especially like not having hope and stuff like that. But I'm telling you right now, if you're one of those Texas fans that is like, oh man, like I can sit down at 7:00 and I can root for Iowa to beat Michigan because that'll let Texas get into the CFP. Just do not put yourself through that. I cannot think of just 3 hours of hell than needing Iowa to score points on this Michigan defense in order to Texas to get in the CFP, just to watch Iowa get sacked and fumble and punt and punt and punt. That sounds like hell. So just give up on this game right now. I think it would have been a lot funnier just to pick the Iowa team total, which is 6.5. The Iowa team total in this game is 6.5 points. I'm going under. I think Iowa puts up a goose egg in the conference title game. Yeah, I will take Michigan 27-0.
I'm right there with Aaron on that one. That is like this is. I will say, if Iowa finds a way to pull this off, okay, go back however you can, find a recording of the game, save that thing because this will go down as one of the all-time weirdest classic games of all in the history of college football.
How many points does Iowa need to score to win this game? Like at least like 17, right?
Here's the only way that I'm being dead. The only way I see them winning this game is if their defense, they got a good defense. That's Iowa. That's one thing that they actually can claim. Is if Iowa goes out there and shuts Michigan down. Michigan, for whatever reason, isn't moving the ball, having an off day. Maybe McCarthy's just throwing picks left and right. They don't even need to throw the ball because they've shown that they can run the ball a lot. I mean, it's just. It would require a defensive day, and it would have to be like this. Would have to be like that. Like people talk about that peak the peak Big Ten score where it was like Penn State won a game 6-3 or something like that, or 4-2, like that. That's the level of game that this would have to be.
Yeah, unfortunately for them, Cooper DeJean, their best defensive player, their best player, period, who scored a lot of their points on offense, as the kick returner, he's out. So Iowa's got about as much of a chance of winning this game as I do of hitting 22 miles per hour in wearing football pads. Ain't gonna happen.
That should be the punishment for this contest of getting last. You should have to put on a full gear of football pads and run a 40-yard dash with
that ain't gonna happen either.
Look, I got the Bushnell, okay? So we can get the time right. We can get the
that ain't gonna happen either. Let's move on from that.
Nash can put up one of those tweets where it's like, all right, Jamal Charles and Travis Gailey started at the 40-yard line with a running start. Here's the synchronized clock.
I love how at the end of the season you pick that, like, oh, we should do this for the person in last place.
I've actually had that in mind most of the year. I just been forgetting.
Just been saying, just put it on the back burner, like some good food. It's slow cooking.
That ain't gonna happen. But Michigan, Iowa, I don't know that Iowa scores any points this game. I mean, I'm not sure they score anything at all. So I'll definitely pick Michigan. I feel bad. I feel bad for anyone watching this game. I feel bad for the Fox crew calling this game. I feel bad for anybody that has to suffer through Big Ten. And the only reason Iowa is here is because the Big Ten West is just flat out god awful. Iowa would be Texas Tech if they were in the Big 12, right? They'd be 6-5 or whatever, they have a good defense. So what? They have no offense. They can't score. They're not going to shut people down. Iowa is a pathetic excuse to be in a championship game. The Big Ten is pathetic, and
abolish divisions.
By all means, let's keep propping up Ohio State.
Abolish
why
divisions
do we need
because
the Big Ten West? Like, would it really be the end of the world if we had to watch Michigan and Ohio State again this week? I really would be okay with that.
No, it wouldn't, because here's the deal. You know what this is like? Because this is what I don't know if people have paid attention to this. The Pac-12 moved away from divisions a couple years ago. If they did not do that, Oregon would be missing. They'd be sitting at home right now, sitting there watching Washington play against whatever is Utah or whatever that would be on the opposite side of the division. It would be we'd be sitting there saying, you know what, we're sitting here watching one of the best teams in the country not play.
Yeah.
Yep, that's exactly what would be happening. All right, biggest game of the week for Texas's purposes: Louisville versus Florida State. FSU 1.5-point favorites, and that line is probably going to be going down because of the rumors floating around. I don't know if this is Vince Young broke his hand on 6th Street level rumors or if there's legitimacy to it, but there's a lot of rumors that their quarterback, whose name is just slipped my mind right now.
I saw a couple of tweets. There were no legitimate links to reporters or specific websites. People will talk about the line moving. The line has moved from 2 to 1.5 on some sites. That's not what would happen if there was a legitimate quarterback dropout. He might not play, but I don't know. I'm picking this game as if Tate Rodemaker's playing. I'm not spooked by some of these tweets.
Which is fair. So since you're doing that, pick it.
Yep. Man, this is a big one. I mean, I talked about this is the game where you sit down and you put on all your Louisville Cardinals stuff and you've got to get it fired up about it because this is what these scenarios are all about, man. If Florida State loses this game, Texas has a legitimate shot. They were able to run the ball against Florida last week. Florida's, I believe, in the 70s in run defense. Louisville is number 12 in the country in rush defense. They lost last week against Kentucky because they had 3 turnovers. Turnovers can be fluky from week to week. If Louisville can take care of the football, I think they should win this game. I think they can stop the Florida State run and put the game in the hands of Tate Rodemaker or potentially Tate Rodemaker's backup. I think Florida State's luck finally comes to an end. Louisville's definitely one of the better teams they've played this year. I think Louisville can get fired up for this game, even though they lost the rivalry game last week to Kentucky. This is it, man. I mean, this is all the marbles. Texas is going to win. It's going to come down to this game because I think Georgia's also going to win. I think Louisville gets it done. I'm not just saying that. I actually looked at the numbers. I've watched some of these games. I think Louisville's going to find a way to win this game. I think it's going to be close, though.
Yeah, I 100% agree. This is going to be a close game. This is going to be a game that has Texas fans on the edge of their seat the entire time. I would much rather prefer it to not be that case, but also I will caution you. If Florida State jumps out to a 12-0 lead, or if they're down 12-0 to start the game, just don't get your hopes up. They've been down 12-0 both games the last time to South Alabama and to Florida to start. I will be honest. The statistic that Aaron put up here is what made me change my prediction from Florida State to Louisville. And Louisville has the 12th best rush defense in the country. Trey Benson, if Trey Benson is going to Travis said this the other day for Ollie Gordon. Ollie Gordon is the straw that stirs the drink. That's Trey Benson for Florida State right now, ever since they lost Jordan Travis. And if they can stop him and you can even like Aaron said, let's just assume Rodemaker is starting right here. If you can force Rodemaker to play quarterback and to actually make decisions and make throws, that has to be where you win the game for Louisville. So I'm going to pick Louisville to win. I will go one step further than Aaron. He said that you might see Texas make it in the playoff if Louisville wins. You will see Texas in the playoff. If Texas wins, I don't think we need style points at that point to make it over Ohio State at that, because if you get it, the best combination you could ever ask for is Louisville loss, Texas win. That happens, you will see your Longhorns in the college football playoff.
All right. And we're going to make our playoff picks here in a second. I don't know if this is just wishful thinking or the fact that I haven't been impressed with Florida State either, especially against Florida, which is not a good team. They won, but Florida's not a good team. I think Louisville, and I know Louisville lost to Kentucky. I get it. I know they lost to Pitt, which is just mind-boggling. I don't know how they did that. But they bounced back from that big time. I like their coach. I like the team. Give me the Cardinals. I think Louisville wins. Now, Again, wishful thinking or just pure analysis, you decide. But I'm taking Louisville in this one.
I don't think it's too wishful thinking, but we'll never know. It is going to be – it's a different kind of stressful because I'm always that guy that's like rooting against the team that helps my team. So like I'm always watching these games in whatever sport. It's very stressful because like if you're watching your team, it feels like you have control of your own destiny. When you're watching just these other teams, it's a different type of experience. So it's going to be a stressful Saturday night. We should go on record, make our final college football playoff predictions. Nash, so just to be clear, we all have Oregon winning. We all have Georgia winning. I have Bama covering, but I have Georgia winning. And we all have Michigan winning. We all have Louisville winning. So, Nash, you said a Texas win and a Florida State loss. Texas is in slam dunk. A lot of people think that. A lot of smart people agree with you. I think to feel safe and cozy, you need the Georgia win over Bama. If Bama beats Georgia, Texas could definitely get in, but it gets pretty tough. But I think Georgia wins. I think Florida State loses. I've been saying all week, I think if Georgia wins and Florida State loses, it should be a slam dunk. So I'm going to go Georgia 1, Michigan 2, Oregon 3, and Texas 4.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think Georgia number 1, Michigan number 2, Oregon number 3, Texas 4. The only thing that I'll say for Georgia, with the Georgia, if Georgia were to lose, I cannot see a scenario where the committee is going to say, you know what, we're not going to honor your head-to-head win anymore. like I might have understood like the last leg of that argument that I could have understood died when Alabama barely beat Auburn. If Alabama absolutely if Alabama steamrolled Auburn and they were looking like it was like an Oregon situation where it's like, okay, they're clearly passing the eye test way better than Texas. I just think it's mentioned at such a high point in the protocols. And I know at this point what the protocols, what they mean. It's whatever they do means more than what they say. But the entire reason why we've started the cultural playoff is because of head-to-heads and having to honor the head-to-head matchups. I can't see them going away from that.
Who do you have getting left out if Bama wins? Do you have Bama getting left out or Georgia?
It would have to be Georgia, and the only reason why I say this is because this was something that this was a possible question going into the season. Was Georgia? A lot of people were questioning: is Georgia going to be able to make it when they get to the back half of their schedule? Because that's like it was just cupcake all year long up until they get to Tennessee, Ole Miss, and then I forget who else, and then even then when you look at that Tennessee, it's like Tennessee that's such a fraudulent top 25 team. Well, it's just they've had such an easy schedule. I think that would be what does them in.
Well, then you would have Georgia falling a lot of spots, and I don't know, man.
There has to be a premium that's placed on conference championships.
I'm not saying you're wrong.
And I think that this is wrong.
I'm just saying it's hard to. I don't give faith that the committee will do what's right.
I think the committee would rather go play Russian roulette than have that situation happen.
I think, well, yeah, but I kind of agree with Colby that given the fact that Alabama's win would be so much bigger than Texas's win, I kind of see Bama leapfrogging Texas in that scenario.
I mean, but can you say that? Because if you go and you say, you know what, the Alabama team, maybe we were completely underrating this Alabama team after that Texas loss, and then that only strengthens that only makes if Alabama beats Georgia, that only makes that what we did in Tuscaloosa, that only makes it look so much more impressive because now you don't have the narrative of, oh, this is the Nick Saban team that fell off or anything like that. This is the Nick Saban team that got beat. The only time they've ever been beat by double digits in their own house under Nick Saban. And then they went out, all they did was they turned around and went undefeated after that point and then beat the team that won 44 out of the last.
I understand. I get it. I get all those arguments. I do. I do understand. But it is going to be, listen, I've got Georgia winning, going in as the 1 seed, Michigan going in as the 2 seed, Oregon winning tonight and going in as the 3 seed, and then thanks to Louisville, Texas coming in as the 4 seed. And by the way, I like Texas's chances against Georgia. I think Texas matches up very well with Georgia. And if this happens, we'll have a lot of chance to talk about that semifinal game. I think it's a good matchup for Texas. And I think I would rather see them matched up against Georgia or Michigan than Oregon. I think I like Texas's chances a lot better against either one of those two teams, actually. Certainly, I would take whatever the point spread is. I would take the points, Texas with the points. And I may be more inclined to take – I would definitely take a money line bet against Michigan, and I might be inclined to do that against Georgia. But if, worst case scenario, if Nash is wrong, and let's say Alabama wins and they jump Texas and Texas is left out, the final note is Kirk Bowles is reporting, and this is logical, but he's saying he has sources, Bowles sources is how they described it. Kirk Bowles is reporting if Texas misses out on the playoffs, they're going to be playing Missouri in the Cotton Bowl. So back to Dallas, playing in the Cotton Bowl in Jerry World, taking on Missouri. Call it the Ryan Wingo Bowl if you must, but that's the backup scenario.
If that's honestly like almost like worst case scenario, because
no, worst case scenario is if they lose Saturday to Oklahoma State, then it's Oklahoma State in the Cotton Bowl. Texas will still probably get a New Year's Six bowl game, but it's going to be somewhere else.
I still, as a Texas fan, I've been waiting for this moment for too long. That if we do everything, if everything happens right, except for just that one freak scenario, and then we just get left out somehow at 5 with Bama and after having beaten Bama too. I'd be pissed to no end. And at that point, it would be like Steve Sarkisian, just go out there and murder Missouri so that you can say, you know what, we just absolutely we have the best win over Missouri all season long, and all USCC teams can go suck it.
I think if the worst case scenario happens and they end up outside of the playoffs, I think you will see a motivated Texas team. The question then becomes, though, who's playing in it? Do you see Xavier Worthy leave early, for instance, to go get ready for the NFL? Do you see Andre Sweat go leave early to get ready?
And I have a different stance than a lot of people. We can talk about this a lot more in the future, but I have a lot different stance than a lot of people on that one.
And that's fine. And we are unfortunately out of time to talk about that now.
Absolutely.
So yeah, we will talk about that in the future.
Well, hopefully we don't get to talk about that. Hopefully we'll talk about the Longhorns playing in the college football playoff.
And sorry, Brent Berry. No, the Big 12 champ will go to the Cotton Bowl. That's how this is working, because the Sugar Bowl. What if
the champ goes to the college football playoff? Could the loser then go to the Cotton Bowl?
Yes, could, but won't. They're not going to. The Cotton Bowl is not required to then pick a Big 12 team, and Oklahoma State's not going to go in. Oklahoma could conceivably make a New Year's Six Bowl and the Cotton Bowl, but if Texas loses the Big 12 champ, they go to the Cotton Bowl. No, they're not going to the Cotton Bowl if they lose the Big 12 champ, Brent. If they win and are out of the playoffs, they're in the fish. No. If they win, they're Big 12 champs, they'll go to and not make the playoffs, they'll go to the Cotton Bowl, not the Fiesta Bowl. I'm not going to keep arguing with them. Anyway, listen, that's it. Football tonight starts tonight. We're going to get answers starting tonight. And we'll see how this all plays out. We will be right back here Monday morning for all the reaction. Sunday afternoon, 11:15 is the ESPN show announcing the college football playoffs. And then I think at 1:30, could be off in the time, but I think at 1:30 is the New Year's Six Bowls announced on ESPN. Lots of stuff coming up. We're going to have a busy weekend. We got a lot of football to watch. Hey, for Nash, for Aaron, I am Travis Gailey. Hope you guys have a fantastic Friday. Good luck to everyone.